This is the Girl Chat International podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Girl Chat International podcast, where we aim to cultivate a safe and empowered community across the globe. Really excited for today's episode. We are going to be speaking with Elise Stevens, who is just a powerhouse in my eyes. She went through an awful trauma of being kidnapped, abused while pregnant. This man was a predator, and she's come out the other side. She's gone through so much, yet she's come out the other side. She's clung onto her faith. She has a beautiful family now. She's an advocate. She is educating the public and giving back to the community. And this is going to be a really good one. For those of you who might think you're not ready yet, maybe you've gone through sexual assault, domestic violence, or similar traumas, it's okay if you pause right now and go to the end for the affirmation, because the affirmation is actually going to be really healing for you. And then come back to this episode when you're ready, when you've talked through it, when you've healed. Some of you don't know if what you're going through is domestic violence or not. And listening to this is going to start to turn on some of those warning lights for you of, oh yeah, that is exactly what I'm going through, and I need to get out now. And the key here is, we believe you. We're here for you. We support you. And this community that we're creating with this podcast are women, men, just all genders coming together to believe each other, to support each other, to affirm each other. So if you're listening and you need to push pause right now, we love you. And for those of you who want to keep on going, listen ahead. This is a really awesome interview, really empowering. Elise is wonderful. So here we go. So we have Elise Stevens with us, who is an author and also runs a family-owned and operated brand, BRW, located in northeastern Oregon. She's a survivor, a mom, and wife who helps other survivors find their light again. So thank you so much, Elise, for being here. We're looking forward to hearing your story, learning from it, growing, and helping others. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. So what we'll do is we can just start with your story, and then I'll ask some of those questions that I shared with you before, after. So we could start with that.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So this story is a story that truly has shaped me and changed me in my life. It's a story that truly showed me that God works in mysterious ways. And that is something I always took lightly until I was in a situation like this. I was raised in a home where my mom was not very nice. Domestic violence was never discussed. Violence in the family was never discussed. And in all honesty, I didn't even know it was a thing. So when I was 21 years old, I met this man, and he tricked me. He stalked me for quite a while, which I did not realize until later on. And we went out as friends, and I had one drink, and the night went black.
Wow.
4 weeks later, found out I was pregnant with my oldest daughter. She's 15 today. And my family was strong Christian family. I was told not to embarrass them, that I was to stay and get married and do all the right things. But immediately I knew that something was wrong. Like, it just didn't feel the same as past relationships. He was really controlling, tried to remove me from my friends, tried to remove me from my family. And eventually he succeeded, which actually, when I look back on it, it didn't take him that much time to succeed. It was only about a month to 6 weeks into the relationship before he had completely secluded me
Wow.
by myself. And he moved me at that time 30 miles away from my family. And he attacked me for about 4 hours. And in that time, I was 4.5 months pregnant with my daughter, and he had stabbed me in the abdomen with a serrated butter knife. I got to the bed or to the bathroom, and the bathroom is the one room in a house that is always safe for a woman or for a survivor, because it has a lock. Most rooms do not have a lock in a household, but you can almost always tell someone that has survived because they find solace in the bathroom. I stayed in the bathroom for 6 hours until I was able to get out, and then I drove myself to the hospital. He had put me in acute kidney failure by kicking me in the kidneys so bad, and then stabbed me in the abdomen, but it missed everything. Like, they were blown away. The baby was completely healthy, and it was all me. I was the only one that was sick. The baby was totally fine, and I was like, okay, God, I know it's you. I was admitted for 10 days. I was released from the hospital, and he had packed all my stuff into a U-Haul, and he told me that he was moving me 300 miles to his mom's house for a better life. And he told me if I didn't get in the U-Haul, he would kill me.
Wow.
So I got in the U-Haul, and I got to his house, like his mom's house, and I had hoped that maybe he was right. Maybe he wasn't going to touch me in front of her. Maybe it was going to be okay. And I knew immediately it wasn't. It was all my fault. She had a 10 by 10 room that was like half stocked with boxes to the ceiling. So really it was only like 5 feet by 5 feet of room that I had. And that was where I was expected to stay, unless I was cleaning or cooking or doing something for them. Nobody really knew the situation. He would choke me out like right in front of his mom. And I would say, do you see this? And she'd be like, oh, well, if you weren't such a beep, then he wouldn't do this to you. And it really got into my head that it was my fault. It was all my fault. I was in that situation for 5 months. I had no contact with my family, my friends. Nobody knew where I was. Nobody even knew that I was 300 miles away from them. It was all this like big secret. He had told my family I wanted nothing to do with them. So I gave birth to my daughter and I immediately knew I needed to get out. I gave birth in a hospital, but his mom had invited like 10 of her closest friends and family to watch me give birth. And so I had a whole room of people. I didn't even know who they were. And I pushed her out at 8 centimeters. And it was very traumatic. Like the birth itself was traumatic. And then the nurse knew something was wrong. And she immediately was like, you are stronger than you will ever realize. And you can get away from this. And it was that day that I was like, you know what? She's right. Like I am bigger than this and better than this. So when my daughter was 10 days old, I took a train and I rode a train 300 miles, like just me and her. I packed up a duffel bag and I left. He, of course, followed me, found me, and this went on for 3 months, this back and forth. He raped me in a city park in front of other people, and I became pregnant. My daughter was only 4 weeks postpartum, so I was about 7 weeks postpartum when I found out I was pregnant, and I was pregnant with twins. And I had written a 14-page paper on why there was never an excuse for abortion. And I found myself at Planned Parenthood having an abortion. I was alone and I didn't feel like I had any other option. And I already couldn't protect the one baby that I had with him. How was I going to protect 2 other babies? Like 22 years old and all these thoughts going through my head. And it just kept feeling like I was not going to be able to survive. That was a blessing though. I told him that I had had a miscarriage and that I needed to go somewhere to have the miscarriage, but I couldn't go home to my mom's. So he had introduced me to his best friend's wife, who was a nurse, and said, well, you can stay over here with her. she is still to this day my best friend. She is the woman that has seen me through it. She held him back by the neck of his sweatshirt so I could run from him. I mean, she has been by my side the whole step of the way from that day. Like from the day he walked me into that house, she said, "You're safe now. Like, you're okay." And I was like, "What?" And she goes, "I know he's not a good guy and you're safe now." And she kept me like there. She let me stay there with my daughter. And he was there. He would come there. But I finally had told her, like, "I'm done. I need out. I just need away from him." So I had gone to a friend's house. And of course, he got mentally into my head and convinced me to come back. And oh, poor me. And I'll never do it again. And so I went back stupidly. And he attacked me for 6 hours.
Oh,
The minute I opened the door, he threw hot oil on me
oh my gosh.
and I had my daughter like in her carrier, like in my hand, and I had hot oil burns from head to toe. They had seeped through my clothes even, so like it was horrible. And then he bashed my head against the arm of the couch and gave me cauliflower ear. And he got kidnapping for that. He got a charge of kidnapping for that because he drugged me from one room to another by my hair. This man was 6 inches shorter than me, and he was like little tiny thing. You'd never even think he could manhandle me the way he did. And I don't the supernatural power that would come over him when he was angry or felt like he was in control is just downright disgusting, and a fear, and not something you will ever understand until you've been there and seen that dark in a person's eye. That night was the night I called the cops. It took 6 hours and broken vertebrae and hot oil burns and being headbutted like a grown man. And for me to finally realize, like, this is not going to end. Like, I don't care if I'm an embarrassment to my family. I don't care if I'm a single mom. Like, I have to do this for me. And I called the police, and he was arrested, but he was released the very next day.
Of course.
And he showed up to my house, broke into my house, stole like all of my daughter's birth certificate, social security card, like anything I needed to get her any help or anything, gone. I felt so violated. Called the police and they're like, "Well, we have no proof that it was him." And I was like, okay, 22-year-old woman. I didn't understand my rights. I didn't know what I could do or say. And again, another blessing, because my friend told me, "You need to hire some protection." And what did I do? I found the biggest man I could find, who was also kind of a friend of mine. And I jokingly said, "I will pay you $100, just $100 a night to stay at my house and make sure I'm safe." I didn't have that $100. He knew I didn't have that $100, but I was so just lost. And he said, "I'll pack you up and your daughter up and you come live at my house." And I went, "What?" And he goes, "Come on." And I was like, "No, I don't want anything." He's like, "No, nothing like that. Come on. Just, I got an extra room. You guys are safe." And I was like, "What?" And I'm married to that man today.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah, he went to every court date with me. He was there every step of the way. He has raised my daughter completely, fully as his own. He was my saving grace. So we first went viral 2 years ago. New York Post called us the real life Whitney Houston and Kevin. Sorry.
It's okay.
The real life Whitney Houston and Kevin Costner, because I had hired my bodyguard. But what people don't see is the trust that it took for me to like trust this man with not only myself, but my child, and like his kindness and love. Like, there was just so much that happened in a matter of 3 or 4 months. All of our friends were like, "You guys are crazy. Why are you getting married? Why are you doing this?" In reality, we got married so quick so that he could help me prove that like we had a stable home for my daughter and to help me protect our daughter. It was never a plan. It was never like, "Hey, I'm gonna get married super quick." But we did. We decided on Monday, got married on Friday. And the funny thing is we got married on Friday the 13th, and today is Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
So it is funny. Like, we've been married 15 years. We have 2 wonderful children on top of our daughter. But for 11 years, I never talked about it. Like, I never talked about what I did. Like, I was a preschool teacher at a very upstanding, like, Christian school, and not one person knew my past.
Mhm.
I mean, I just hid it. I hid it from my daughter. I hid it from my family. I hid it from my friends. I just, oh yeah, I'm back from vacation. You know, I just tried to play it off like that. And my husband literally got to a point was like, you need to talk about it. Well, that made me mad. So I asked for a separation and a divorce because I was like, no, you can't force me to talk about it. You're just being rude and you don't understand. And I thought he was against me.
Mm.
But when I left him, I realized, wait a minute, these pains and traumas are still there, but my husband is not. So maybe he is right. Maybe this is more me than him. And he was so patient with me. And one of the biggest things that I've learned through this, and I'm such an advocate for, is to talk about it. You have to talk about it. You have to put words to your triggers. You have to acknowledge that those things still trigger you to this day, and it's okay. Like, there are still, it's been 15 years, and I still can't be in a room with all the windows shut and the fan not on because I panic and I think I'm going to die. And it's just me.
Yeah.
But I was able to actually tell my husband that. Like, I was able to say, hey, can we leave the windows open? And it's for this reason. And I was able to put my own emotions, my own everything, words to these triggers, helped me heal, helped my husband heal, helped our kids heal. Like, it was like night and day. And it
Wow.
literally was just talk about it. Talk about
Mhm.
it. Like, just say it. Just say it. It sets you free. Just say, yep. I was just telling someone the other day, I have such a toxic trait to sit in the middle of a room and I'll just say, hi, I'm Elise, and I was kidnapped, held hostage, and I'll just go on and tell my story. And I can tell you in the room, the victims or the survivors versus the people that are hurting them. And then those who just want to pretend like nothing like that ever happens. And I will never stop talking about it. Like, I will never stop
Good.
talking about it. I tell my kids, like, you talk about it. You don't let anything go untalked about. Like, by the end of the day, you talk to everybody that you had a problem with, like, little or small, I don't care. Air it
Mhm.
out, talk it out, leave it, and walk away from it.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's been such a journey in our healing process. I never imagined I would be TikTok viral or a TikTok influencer. Like, I never in my life ever imagined that. But I made a stupid TikTok 2 years ago that about my story, and it is just huge. It's gone huge, and we're so blessed for it to go huge. But it's not even that. It's the messages that I get from women that are like, wow, thank you so much for telling your story. I did not know I was not alone. Like, or I needed to know this extra, like, my ex or my husband does that to me too. I need to get out. Or,
Yeah.
I mean, I get those messages daily, all day long. Or, hey, I need help getting connected to this women's shelter, and I'll make this a video and I'll get women out of their situations and into. It's not about me. Like, God's using me to help other people, but I always tell everybody, I'm a normal human being with a crazy story. And that's all it is. Like, because people will be, oh my goodness, you're famous, or oh my goodness. No, I am just Elise and I have a crazy story. Like, that's all it is.
Mhm. Yeah. And God's using you in that way.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. And the fact that all these people are reaching out, it shows also the prevalence and how it,
Mm-hmm.
just like you said, you didn't want to tell anyone for the longest
Mm-mm.
time. So many other people don't want to tell their story for the longest time. I can relate with that. Of you almost have that moment of, wait, did that really happen? It's this out of body experience, right?
I get that a lot, actually, more now. I
Mm,
think because I lived with it so hidden that I just thought it was normal. And my childhood wasn't that great. So I really thought it was normal. Like,
right.
and then I had my own kids and I was like, wait a minute. Like, this isn't normal. Like, it's not normal to beat your wife. And it's not normal to be drunk and driving with your kids in the car. And it's not like these things that I grew up with, quote unquote, normal. I'm starting to realize these aren't normal. These
Hmm.
aren't, and if we just talk about it, maybe we'll start breaking those generational curses.
Yeah.
Uh, hey, just because your mom hit you doesn't mean you need to hit your kids. Or just because your mom yelled at you doesn't mean you need to yell at your kids. Like, I am a huge advocate for that right now. Like, you can break the chain and you can be a better parent, you can be a better wife, you can be better to yourself. Like, you don't have to be a cranky old person in life. Like, you don't have to do it. I was that way for too long and I've let loose of it. I'm like, this is me. If you don't like me, move on.
Hmm. That's great. That's great. And I'm sure people will be listening and they're going to think, oh my gosh, yeah, you're right. I can just be me. I don't have to fit a mold. I can make change. And even when you were saying with your kids, you want them to talk things out. So that's also a blessing to your kids. And they're going to, they won't even notice it, but they'll probably be almost teaching their friends this just because of who they are. And then they'll teach other people. It just spreads, you know?
Well, it's funny because they already do. They
Oh,
come home and they'll say, Mom, my friend was doing this and I said this. And I'm like, good job, guys. Like, way to be encouraging. And we live in a town of 2,000 people. Like, our town is so small. We ride our quad. Like, tonight when I get off of this, we're riding our quad down to the homecoming football game. We
oh,
don't even have a child that's playing. It's just a small town and that's what we do.
right.
But it's so great because in this small town, like, everybody knows my story and everybody knows what I do, but they don't care. They treat me
Hmm.
normal. They treat me like I'm a human being, and they don't bring it up. They don't rub it in my face, which is always things I thought people would do. I thought they'd be like, "Well, you've been beat," or "Oh, you can't be this way," but they don't. They don't. It's like, "Oh, hey, I'm just the same person I was, just with a cooler story." Like,
Hmm.
that's really all it is. And our kids, though, I see so much growth in our kids in the last 2 years. Our oldest daughter is autistic. She's high functioning autism, on top of the trauma that she has. Like, but she is absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I post about her a lot on my social media. She stood up against some kids for vaping in the bathroom 2 years ago. Like, and I made a TikTok about it. It got like 9.7 million views. And I mean, all of my kids are just constantly being advocates of talk about it, be nice, do this. In a
That's
way, I'm like, you guys just be kids. But on the other hand,
right, right.
yeah, I'm like, you guys don't have to follow mom's footsteps. But on the other side, it's so great to see them be able to decipher between good and bad. And like, that we have a little guy in town here and he comes from a hard, rough family. And my kids like constantly are like, hey, can we take this to so and so? Can we take a plate of food over to their house? Can we make sure they have this? And I'm just like, if I would have never broke the chain and started to talk about who I was as a person, I don't believe my children would be the way they are today. And I actually even asked my 15-year-old that. I said, do you really believe that if mom was still the way mom was 3 years ago or 4 years ago? And it wasn't that I was a bad mom. I was just
Right.
disconnected and living in my own trauma.
Hmm.
And I asked her, I said, do you believe you would be the person you are today? And she flat out told me no. She said, you give me hope and you show me that it's okay to speak. And like, she told me all these things. I started crying.
Yeah,
She's
of
like,
course.
why are you crying, Mom? And I was like, because I always thought, coming from trauma and having her in trauma and giving birth to her in trauma and like, being stabbed in the abdomen with your child, like, and then holding your child in your arms, knowing that it wasn't your fault that they went through all that trauma, but in a way it was, because I could have left. Like, I've always battled all these, would
Mm.
she be okay? Like, just that, is she going to be okay? Is she going to make it out of this? And She did. Like, she
Mhm.
is absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. And my other two kids, they're absolutely amazing too. They, obviously don't have the trauma that my oldest one does, but they're empathetic to trauma because they've seen what I've been through and how it affected me and how I came out of it. So they're really empathetic towards people that are in trauma and how can we help it. Our biggest goal in our community actually is to start a women's wellness center. My husband owns a construction company, and I want to get one of the old lodges in our area and kind of redo it into an equine therapy wellness center for survivors to come, because there's something so powerful about the valley that I live in. Like, it's just so freeing, and like, I've post some pictures on my Facebook about our valley. Like, it is just absolutely gorgeous. But it was something about when I came here, I could let it free.
Mhm.
And I told my husband, I was like, I want to start a wellness center here. I want women and men and children to be able to come here and feel the horse between their legs and look at the antelope running through the field. And like, we have a 50 plus herd of elk that walk through our town. Like,
Oh my gosh.
it's so freeing. It's just so freeing that if I could give one more person that freedom in their life would be so amazing.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. So, a question I do have, I saw that there is a GoFundMe. If
Mhm.
people donate to that GoFundMe, is that kind of supporting some of that dream?
Yes. So
Awesome.
the GoFundMe is right now, it is, our family is really just feeling pulled to tell our story. We do not know if
Yes.
it means that we're going to get in a travel trailer and travel the United States, or if we're going to start a wellness center and start bringing people here. We do
Mhm.
not know. Like, we just felt led to, hey, let's do this. Let's put this out there. Whatever the Lord brings our way and funds us or puts us in our shoes, we will do.
Yeah.
Um, we have learned to be very obedient to the Lord, and like, especially in today's time and today's era, like, a lot of people are like, how can you believe in God? And it's like, honey, when you have seen death knocking on your door by a man that is evil in your eye, you can't deny God. Like, I'm sorry, you can't. And a lot of people
Mhm.
say, well, he allowed you to go through this. And it's like, no, that was my choice. Like, he allowed me to make the choice to go through it and allowed me to make the choice to come out of it. Like,
Right.
and now I'm allowed to have the choice to do this and give back to the survivors and the warriors. We also have a brand. I have hats and shirts that we sell, and 50% of the proceeds will go to keeping survivors safe. So
Mhm.
eventually, all the hats and all the shirts right now are in my handwriting and my quotes. But
Oh,
what
so
I
cool.
eventually want to do is find survivors, have them make a shirt, and then every time that shirt is bought, their story will be sent out with that shirt, and 50% of the proceeds will go to keeping them safe.
Mhm.
So
Wow.
that's keeping them in housing, getting them clothes for a job, getting them daycare paid for, whatever it is they need. It's to help them keep safe.
Mhm. That's wonderful. And yeah, at the end of this, I'm going to make sure that I share all of that in my recording so that people know where to find all of this, but also we'll share the links too in our social media because it's such a important cause. And I love the creativity too. Actually using the handwriting and the stories. It makes it so personal and it really that touches people, and it really teaches people too.
Well,
I
it's like,
love it.
I think of how many people I came across in my years of life, because I was 22 years old when I escaped, and then I was 35 when I came out. So for 12 years, I lived a life where I didn't speak of it and I didn't
Mm,
say anything. And I thought, how many times, if I was just wearing a t-shirt and maybe my own handwriting, this is talk about it, that opens a door, allows people to step out of it. How many people I come across in my life that never knew what I went through? How many people have I come across in my life that is like, we're like, they might have been through very similar situation,
mhm.
or, and I always try to say, no trauma is too small or too big to conquer. Like,
Yeah.
my trauma is not any bigger than anybody else's trauma. Like, if that trauma is big to you, then that I respect that and honor that and validate that. Like, I do not believe in not believing people. Like,
Yeah.
I believe you. Like, I believe you. I tell my kids that all the time. I post that all over my social media. I believe you. I will, until I am proven wrong, I will believe you, because I don't know how many people I tried to get to believe me and I couldn't get them to believe me. So if I can be that voice for one person, then it's so worth it. So worth it to me.
Without a doubt. I mean, for people to hear that, I believe you, that's huge, because there is so much shame, so much stigma, especially for women. It's, oh, they're making that up. Oh, they're just dramatic. And it's like,
it's just another one of those women.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
awful.
I hate that.
Me too. And that is just one of those evil forces in this world, but you're the light that's showing people, hey, you are believed and it's okay. And I'm going to circle back to two things. One, the equine therapy. That's such a great idea. Actually, my students and we were just talking about this in class, and how for trauma, especially, and you probably know, it's the act of, riding the horse, being in nature, even brushing the horse. It's empowering, and it just that movement and having that connection with the horse. That's like pre even talking about it sometimes for people, because it is so heavy that's the first step. So I love it. And then for others, they'll be processing and riding the horse. And it's like so beautiful how powerful that could be.
So. Well, I'm actually an autistic specialist by trade. I have a master's in special education. So my oldest daughter and actually both my daughters really benefit from equine therapy.
Great.
And I used it a lot as a child. And horses scare me now. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm like totally for like other people to go out and do what they need on them. And I own them and I love them, but from afar. It is so powerful. Those horses like immediately connect with you. Like they just literally make you realize that, wow, it's okay. Like it's like you just melt around them. I've seen it change both my daughters' lives. And since being in the community, I have had 4 separate people come to me and be like, we need to start an equine therapy. And I was like, okay, I get the point. Like this needs to happen. Like, and it's so true. Like equine therapy is just amazing. I stand behind it 100%. Our horse literally is like my daughter and her horse, they just feed off each other. You can see it. Like she just melts her, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
My husband is peeking his head in. The bodyguard.
The bodyguard. Wonderful. Something else I wanted to circle back on was, you said within a month he had you isolated from family, from friends. Looking back, what did that look like, and what was that buildup?
It was so quick. I mean, like literally for me, like looking back at it, it was like I didn't even realize it happened until I was trapped. Like really, it just, because I had just graduated beauty school. Like I went to beauty school. I just graduated beauty school. I just bought a brand new car. I was doing great for myself. I had a brand new job. And then bam, within a month, like I'd lost my job. My mom wasn't speaking, like I wasn't speaking to my family. And I just like woke up one day and was like, what happened?
Oh my
like
gosh.
I didn't even and people say, oh well, you got to be a real sucker to for this to happen. You don't. It happens so quick. They start just taking, and I'm not a sucker, like not like I really am not, like I am. People with my husband now, he's ginormous and huge, and I definitely wear the pants in the family. And people are like, how were you beaten? Because he doesn't control me is the difference. He doesn't get mentally into your mind. They start out by, you can't do it without me, and you need me, and I need you. And it was so quick. Like I just, like looking back on it, I just, it saddens me because it was so quick. There's a part of my story, my family and his family were both connected into like a Mexican mafia kind of situation. I did not know my family actually was entwined in it.
Oh, wow.
But my daughter was actually just a ploy for him to get higher in it, is really what it came down to. So he had this planned from the very beginning. I mean, he knew what he was doing. He had it planned. His mom admitted that he had it planned. Like, and that's the thing. You never know. Like, you never know. I would say, just if I can give like any advice to anybody that feels like they're in that situation, reach out to somebody and like actually like run it by them. Like, hey, I'm like, is this weird? Like, is this okay? Back to like the autism specialists, a lot of undiagnosed autistic adults, they are very susceptible to narcissistic behavior. And so a lot of autistic adults kind of get sucked into the narcissistic behavior and don't understand how to get out because they were never giving those coping skills as a child. So as an adult, they can't express themselves even more and they get stuck, and they literally get stuck. And my heart is so much for that, because I look at my daughter who's autistic, and I know that if I wouldn't give her the tools now, that is the kind of relationship she would have had as an adult.
Right.
And I see it more and more. I see it like literally the more and more I pull women out of situations, I will look at my husband, who is also autistic by the way.
Oh, wow.
And I'll say, that is a very autistic woman that was like you can just see it. You can just see it and know it, that these predators have preyed on these weak women or men, and then and honestly, I save just as many men out of DV situations as I do women. I mean, in true honesty, men are just as violated in a lot of ways as women are. They just don't speak up as much.
Right. And I'm glad you did say that too, because we have some men who listen and who might just stumble across this on TikTok or Instagram, and they'll be validated. And, oh yeah, that is narcissistic behavior that I'm dealing with right now. And it doesn't feel good. Goodness, it's so awful. And it's awesome hearing you speak, because you're so well-rounded. Because you went to beauty school, you have the master's in special education, and you know all about autism. And I think all these things, it's just, this is what you're like meant to be out here and advocating and telling people what's going on, because you just have so much experience, both lived experience and the educational side. And so that's really helpful for people too, to hear this,
Sometimes I always think like, wow, like sometimes I'm like, how did I do all this in my short time of life? But
yeah,
I realize is like, I knew my life growing up was traumatic, and I had my grandparents that weren't traumatic, that did give me that like 50% of like, I knew what a non-traumatic life could look like, that I always stayed busy. Like as soon as I graduated high school, I just moved on to the next thing. And I was always working and always had 2 or 3 jobs, because I didn't want to fall into the same path as my family had done. I've worked really hard to get where I am today, and I laugh really hard because I'm like, I have a $70,000 degree I probably will never use again.
right.
I paid $12,000 for a degree in hair cosmetology just to be able to cut my husband's hair and beard like every 6 weeks. Like, I laugh about it, but I know that where I am right now is where I'm supposed to be. Like, I just know like I am where I'm supposed to be.
Absolutely. So then, with your relationship with your husband, I love the love story as a component of it, that this is a true bodyguard situation in real life in front of our eyes. With that relationship, it sounds that it's a healthy relationship. I mean, you both had those conversations of, yeah, it's time to process, and you both made it through even when you were like, no, we need to separate and divorce. So when you look at this relationship, what about it was different than an unhealthy toxic relationship like what you got, but you were kind of, not kind of, but absolutely cornered into, and a
Oh, I was
predator versus
love
healthy.
bombed.
Oh, yeah, love bombing. Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, there was just always something different about
Mm.
Big Red. So I call him Big Red so my TikTok handles and everything is Big Red's wife. So
Mhm.
what started this is we moved to a small community and no one knew me. So I was just Big Red's wife because my husband owns Big Red's Handyman and Construction. So when I started to go public, I thought, I'm just gonna stick with Big Red's wife. Like that's kind of funny. And now it's huge. Like I call him Big Red and he is my Big Red. And he just was always so kind. He was
Mm.
always so kind. Like I could be mean to him and he would be like, that's okay. I'm like, that's not okay. Like be angry back at me. Like I would try to get him to be angry at me. And it was like he physically couldn't. And
Oh, wow.
still today, it's really hard for him to get angry. Like it's like it's not bred into his body. I don't
Mhm.
know. And I would say the biggest difference is we were both raised Christian and we were both raised with a godly background, that we knew that when we chose marriage, it was a choice and it was out of love and that it wasn't forced, and that, we were choosing it to go on for the rest of our lives. So even though we went through this whirlwind marriage of dating 3 weeks and getting married in 3 days and bam, we promised each other that we would try to work it through anything ever. Divorce was like not an option for us.
Mhm.
Hasn't been easy. Running away
Right.
and divorcing would have been a lot easier in a lot of ways and a lot of times. But the difference is he would want to work it out with me. He didn't want to control me. So he would want to
Mm.
sit and he would want to talk to me and he would want to discuss it. And there was a give and a take. It wasn't just my way or the highway, get out. And it was like that with him from the day one. Which is why I felt like I could trust him. I mean,
Yeah.
I never not trusted that man. I never have felt scared around him. He went through all my court dates with me as a friend. And really that is the big thing I tell people all the time, because they say, how do we find a Big Red? That is the most common
Yeah.
question I get daily, is how do we
Yeah.
find a Big Red? And I always say, check your friend zones. Check your
Wow.
friend zones, because I would have people actually tried to hook us up in high school and I would not date him because he was not my type.
Mhm.
Okay. And now I'm like, check your friend zones, because these men exist and women don't realize it, but they do. They're not your typical gorgeous man and they're not going to be, but they're out there and they exist. They're just in your friend zone and you have to trust them. So
Wow.
one of our biggest problems for a long time is I didn't trust him that he loved me, because I didn't know how to accept love. So even when he would love me, I think he was playing a game. Like, what do you want now? What do you want now? Like, and finally he was like, I don't want anything out of you. I just want to love you. And I was like, what? Like, how does that happen?
Mhm.
But it's the truth. They're out there. They want to love us. They do. But it's naturally we're attracted to the bad guy. Like, really? I mean, what woman is not attracted to hey, look at that bad guy?
I know. Ugh,
Like, I hate it. We
I
are like
know.
naturally. And like, but the friend zones are where they're at. Like, I'm not
Mm.
like, I told my best friend that she married her best friend. Like,
Look
it
at that.
the friends, like, they're my husband. I have grown to love him and be attracted to him. But when we first got married, and I've told him this to his face, it's not something he will hear and be like, how do you? I wasn't attracted to him at first, because people always say, well, I'm not attracted to him. Get to know him. Find out more about him, because that guy that you were maybe attracted to right off the bat, how did he treat you? Like, Like, I'm not saying all attractive men are mean,
Right,
but
right.
if you look at this scenario, it's usually that love bomb. Hey, I want to be with you. You're so amazing. And the relationship is just like,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're like, I am stuck and I can't get out.
Exactly. Yeah. I love that. Looking into your friend zones.
It is. You have to look into your friend zone, and I tell my girls that all the time. Actually, my oldest daughter right now is just getting ready to go to homecoming, and she has this little friend that reminds me so much of Big Red, and she's, she is cute and she is put together. So she's like, and I say, just wait, because that
Yeah.
friend zone, that's where he's gonna be. Like, he'll be waiting there, and she has seizures. So she had a 30-minute seizure yesterday, and I really didn't want her to go to the football game, but her best friend, the little boy, called
Yeah.
me. I'll keep an eye on her. She'll be safe. And I'm just like, see, that's what I mean by check your friend zones, because there is always that one that truly cares for you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So it's that safety, the trust, the caring, the kindness, not
The
actually
love.
having, the love. Wow. And
Yeah.
for you, what change happened, or like what switch turned on where you realized, oh yeah, this isn't a love bombing situation. He's not holding love over my head. This is real. Like, what happened that allowed you to get out of that trauma headspace and really just enjoy that?
Truly, I almost lost him to COVID.
Oh my gosh.
In
Wow.
2021, I literally watched him almost die.
Ugh.
Turned gray on me and went into like the oxygen and everything. And I had already been in my healing process at that time. Like, I'd already started to let go, and it was like a smack in the face. Like, here I am, like, I've had this man for 11 years, this man who loved me, cared for me for 11 years, and I never let him love me because I was too selfish. And now I'm not going to have him. Like, it was like, and as soon as he got home, I was like, I love you. And we're like, it's been amazing and it's been great. And like, we talk and there's true love there. I know I would have gotten to that point without that experience. It may have taken a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like after I healed and just started to see like the little things, he cooks me dinner. I am I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I barely cook dinner.
That's awesome.
Rarely cook dinner because I don't have to, because he'll do it. Or, and it's the little things that you just don't realize that you're missing until you have it. That I think I cooked every single meal for my ex, and it was demanded, and it was what he wanted, and it was, all the time. My husband, I'll say, how's this sound? I don't care. You cook it. I don't care. I'll eat anything. It's just the verbiage is different, and the way he talks to me, the understanding, the kindness, it's just different.
Yeah.
It's just like, you can't even compare the two men, because one's a boy and one's a man.
Right. And that's what people want to do. They want to find the man, the kind man, the man who appreciates them. And it sounds, both of you appreciate each other. Yeah, friend zone. So, all right, ladies, if you're listening, and men too, if you're listening, look in your friend zone.
And you do have to appreciate each other. That's a good point. You do have to appreciate each other, not like you have to admit your faults. Like, you have to be able to admit when you're wrong. That's a big one. That's a big one.
Admitting when you're wrong. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you don't want that resentment to hold, to stay there and build up. Oh, so communication is key here.
Oh yeah. And that's hard. That is hard. I mean, communication was the hardest things for us. But honestly, what we do is we lock ourselves in the car and we'll go for a 2-hour drive.
Oh, I love that.
We don't have any option but to talk to each other, because we have to talk to each other.
Right. That's good. That's a really good tip for us all. And so then tell me a little bit more, your present day life. I know you started to share a little bit more. It definitely sounds a lot lighter and just freeing. So anything
it is. So we are actually originally from the Portland area. So anybody that doesn't know Oregon, Portland is, look it up, Google it. It's a bad place. Like it's like the homeless capital of the United States right now. It's really bad. And it's the Interstate 5 and Interstate 84 go through it. So there's constantly drug trafficking. And I mean, it is a bad place. And in 2020, I realized we're done here. We're moving our family. We're getting out. So we packed up our family and we moved 300 miles to the other side of Oregon into this little tiny town that is absolutely amazing. We have goats and horses and bunnies and a little homestead. And I have a beautiful garden. One of my most viral TikTok videos actually is me in my garden just saying, I never thought 10 years ago or 15 years ago when I was kidnapped and held hostage that I would be gardening in this beautiful garden in my backyard. Like I have a creek that runs through my yard. Our family is very involved in church and school, and it's beautiful and nice, and we cannot wait to just keep telling our story. Like we are blown away at where telling our story has led us already. Like I even told my husband the other day, I was like, I don't even feel like this is real sometimes. Like I'll get messages from people. They'll be like, I will pay to meet you. I'll pay to talk to you. And I was like, no, I'll just come to you. Like, don't pay me. Like, that's silly. I don't want to be paid. Like, that's silly. I don't get it. I'm just a normal person. If people want to talk to me, call me up. I'll chat with them all day long. Like it is a weird life, but it is such a blessing to see how our story can help so many people find happiness, find refuge in themselves. Like, just be able to open that door again, be able to see that there is life after trauma and we do recover. Like recovery is more than just drugs and alcohol. Recovery, we have to recover from anything that happened to our life. And like we do recover. It is okay. I still have triggers. Like there's still times my husband can't hug me from behind or can't touch me a certain way. Oh, sorry. What? Then get your vest. Sorry, my daughter's getting ready for homecoming and I'm in the room. But it is a wonderful life. Like I really, truly, we have 3 beautiful children. My husband and I have been married 15 years.
Awesome.
Well, it'll be 15 years in March.
Wow,
we own our own home. Like I spend my day at home cooking gluten-free treats for my husband and doing TikTok.
Awesome.
Like that. And then what, and doing podcasts and talking about my story and talking about healing, and talking to people. And it is like a dream come true. Like honestly, like it is to be able to stay home, be able to make the money, to be able to stay home, yet to care for my kids, heal, help people. Like this is like literally the dream life right here. But I never thought I would be, I don't care either. Like I would go back to work tomorrow if my story was utilized to its fullest. But I'm not done yet. It's not over yet. Like it's just not yet. I know it's not.
Upwards and onward from here.
Upwards and onwards from here.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, like I found the perfect lodge to start into a women's wellness center, but like I said, it's all on God's timing and it'll happen when it happens, and where it's supposed to happen we're not sure. And like we are prepared to pack up our kids and travel the United States, or we are prepared to stay here. It's just wherever we are led next.
Right. Absolutely. Well, that's wonderful, beautiful. I love to hear when it's not even an ending though. It's just a happy present, I'll call it. And then even more is to come. It's really exciting. It's awesome to hear that you have awesome kids who are also teaching people and a beautiful family. So that's great. Thank you so much for just being here and sharing your story. I know that a lot of people are going to take away so much from this, and I'm just really grateful. So thank you so much.
You are very welcome, and I hope we stay in touch. Like this I've done a few podcasts. This has probably been the most flowing one. So
Oh, good. I'm
I
glad
did one time and did not realize that it was live, and I was super.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, this is live across like 9 different channels, and we have like
Whoa.
4,000 people. I was like, I haven't even brushed my hair today. Like, kidding
Oh
me?
my gosh, they should have like give you fair warning about that.
They
Don't
probably
worry.
did. I just probably didn't read the whole email. It's like,
Right. Oh yeah, I know the emails are so long.
I know.
To learn more about Elise Stevens and her beautiful family, there are so many ways to follow her on social media. If you want to follow Elise on Instagram, follow her at bigredswife. And if you want to follow Elise on TikTok, go to BRW Official. But also, I want to share the GoFundMe opportunity. She does have a family GoFundMe to continue to support the family as they move forward and educate others. But we will be sharing the GoFundMe link in our social media, both on TikTok and Instagram. However, if you're listening right now and you just want to type into your browser, your internet browser, you can go to gofundme.com/f/bigredswifes army help women and get find safety, and you will be directed to their GoFundMe. The title of that is Help Our Family Spread Our Testimony. You can also find Elise on Facebook if you type in Elise Stevens, Stevens. Also, you can type in BRW Official 313 and you will find her there. You can also buy the merch for BRW and continue to raise awareness about domestic violence and keep those who are survivors safe at forum.jotform.com/bigredswife313. Affirmation time. We are going to stay on topic. And guess what? I believe you. I believe you. That bad thing that happened to you that others might have rejected or denied or told you, oh, not you again, or oh, she can be, or he can be, or they can be, just so dramatic, or they're a liar. No, I believe you. You can actually DM us on our podcast or on my personal truthfully.yours.blog. I will message you that I believe you. I believe your story. And this is day 1 of healing. Tell someone your story. Get it out there. Start processing so you can be free, honey. Be free. It's okay. There are things in our lives that we think, I will never tell anybody that that has happened, or I would never have wanted that to happen to me. Yet it did. And look at you. You've come out the other side because you're here, you're listening to the podcast. Even if you're heartbroken, even if your mind is racing, you've made it to this part of the podcast. And I'm hecka proud of you, because every minute that goes on is, like I've said in other podcasts, 1 minute closer to freedom, 1 minute closer to processing. So share. You're valid, and we believe you. So I hope you have a wonderful day, week, night, year, and we will see you next week. You are loved. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. Please make sure to follow us on Instagram at Girl Chat International. That's Girl Chat INTL on Instagram. If you want to follow some of Hersyn's content, follow Daisy Girls on a Roll, and follow Aubrey's content on truthfully.yours.blog. See you all soon on our next episode.